Day 2 of training camp for the Houston Texans. We finally got to see it. The first look at what the kickoff approach could be for the Houston Texans. We'll go in depth on that. Demeco Ryans speaks, as does Danielle Hunter. And I have an overreaction regarding the most talked about position that is not the quarterback. Let's go inside the locker room, talk about day 2 of Texans training camp.
Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top.
Texans back on the field, day 2. What a fun time to be alive. Weather not as cloudy this time, but there was a very clear picture laid out. It is the locker room, #1 source for Texans digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can see me and hear me right here. Appreciate everyone for coming through, for joining the stream yesterday, as well as the night stream. Going to have a few videos throughout the week. We'll have a live stream tomorrow after practice as well. On day 3. We'll get into the kickoff situation in a minute. We got to see it in front of us. I've been dying to see this, and we finally got to see it. I also got an overreaction involving one of the most talked about players on the Texans roster in Stefan Diggs. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Be sure to like the video as well. And we'll start off with just the updates on who was not on the practice field. There was no Landry Tunsil, and there was no Andrew Beck. Now, Andrew Beck, I don't know where Andrew Beck fits in. The role could be similar to last year. The one thing I will say, though, is Troy Harrison's back on the field. He's moving pretty good. Actually caught a pass in team. Probably a little bit more of a possibility of him being able to contribute on special teams, which is something we'll get into. I think the NFL right now is like nothing that we've ever seen. And maybe it's time to proactively look at something and look at some of the decisions that the Texans are going to have to make. But it does feel like Andrew Beck will be on the practice field, I would guess, next week. The work was intensifying. They were measuring him and all that. Landry Tunsil, I don't know when we see Landry Tunsil. I think he was more hurt last year than we may have believed. Who knows when we see Landry Tunsil? As long as he's good to go at the start of the season, I think you're good there. Joe Mixon, after practice, had some nice things to say about Landry Tunsil as well. So we'll get into all of that in a sec. The deep ball. It's been something that CJ Stroud has talked about a lot. He's talked about the deep ball. He wants to take more shots downfield. You actually heard him talk about that last year after the Carolina game. Bobby Slowick said, it's kind of something that we got to take advantage of whenever the opportunity's there. I think in that game, CJ missed Nico, but after that, their relationship kind of built. And you've heard CJ talk about, we want to throw the deep ball a little bit more, but also while still willing to take what he calls boring plays and be okay with that. CJ throwing the deep ball, they weren't really, there weren't even routes being run, but he's just basically throwing it up in the air, and you had the receivers back catching it probably like 50 yards away. This guy throws way too pretty of a deep ball for them not to take advantage of it, especially with the wide receivers that they got. Speaking of which, this was a highlight that I caught of Stefan Diggs. This is Stefan Diggs catching a pass from Stroud at the start of practice. And you can just see how crisp everything is and just how quick he is at getting out of his breaks, which brings me to the overreaction. Here's my overreaction, another overreaction alert. We had a couple of those yesterday. I think that Stefan Diggs is going to be wide receiver 1 on this team. And that might not even be an overreaction. I think there's some people who might be right there with me. You hear Tank Dell, you hear Nico Collins. I think Nico Collins is ranked on ESPN's rankings 2 slots ahead of Diggs in the wide receiver rankings. I think Stefan Diggs, overreaction alert from camp, have the right to change my mind. I think that I think that Stefan Diggs is going to be wide receiver 1. I mean, just the way that he gets in and out of breaks, the way that this team's already gravitating towards him. A lot of times whenever players they go into different situations, or they go into situations where they're on new teams, they kind of have to feel things out. That's not the case with Stefan Diggs. And I actually asked Demeco Ryans about that. The first question is basically about leadership in general. He kind of has some fun with me saying kind of. But here's Demeco Ryans talking about what it's like, because the Texans have a few guys that have been captains before on other squads. In Diggs, Hunter, Mixon, just to name a few. And those guys already seem to have strong veteran presences on a really good Texans team. Here's Demeco Ryans, me asking him about how you established yourself as a leader in a new locker room.
You talked about Diggs being a leader. You got a lot of guys that you brought in that big captains, and you've gone from being here to going to Philly, and they talk about you being kind of a leader. How do you earn that? How is that something that is it kind of just organic? How does that happen?
Yeah, I don't think I'm kind of a leader.
Yeah, I agree.
I've always been in that leadership position. It's just always been important to me, as I mentioned yesterday, to help others around me. I was always tasked with, I don't know how it happened this way, but I was always tasked with playing with younger guys, whether it was, Zach Downs, Brian Cushion, Michael Kendricks, Jordan Hicks. I always had a younger guy next to me, and it always meant something to me to impart some type of wisdom into that young man to help him further his career, because I had veterans when I was here, Sean Barber, Danny Clark, Moreland Greenwood, guys who really helped me when I was a rookie. So that's what the NFL is all about. It's about, we stand on the backs of the guys who came before us. And that's why we've seen this game continue to grow. And it's where it is today is because of all the men who sacrificed and came before us. And it's our job to continue to pay it forward. And that's what I expect out of all our veterans, right? You continue to pay it forward to the young guys, and that's how the league continues to thrive.
I guess what is it like going from Houston to Philly and doing that? Not like Diggs walks into the locker room, he's automatically looked at it as a leader. Is there something like, do you look into that before? Is it just the presence, getting to know the guys? How's that?
When you go from one team to another team, the NFL is a tight community. So everybody knows everybody around the league. And even so nowadays, a lot of guys are training together from different teams. They're training together in the off season. So everybody knows everyone, and everybody understands the reputation the guys have and the type of player they are. When you're a great player, you instantly have that respect when you step into any locker room around the NFL.
That's Demeco Ryans, and I think that's well said. I do find it interesting, all these guys that have had the C on their chest before coming into this locker room, and the crazy thing about this is we look at this squad, and I know we're all pretty high on the Kool-Aid, and you're feeling pretty good about the Texans, but I mean, it's still a young team. I don't want to say they're ahead of schedule, because I think the talent kind of lines up, and I think it's only going to get better, but these are still youngsters. I mean, you look at Tank Dell, you look at CJ Stroud, like look at the guys that they've sent to the podium right now. Like those guys haven't even been legal drinking age. I mean, none of them have been legal drinking age, I think, for 2 years. I mean, put that in perspective. And then you have guys like Danielle Hunter who come to the squad. They learn from guys like Brian Robinson. You have Steph Diggs, who's been one of the veteran leaders on a team knocking on the door of the Super Bowl. It's just interesting that you see guys. Some guys have to fill stuff out and figure out how to establish themselves. The Texans are bringing in guys not only who you think are probably upgrades on the field from what they previously had, but they demand that type of respect. And I think that's an interesting angle and an interesting observation just from what I've seen from this team 2 days into camp. So observation number one, the deep ball from CJ Stroud. I think it's going to be a thing of beauty. The Stefan Diggs factor, I think it's perhaps stronger than even we believed. Johnny says, cool to hear Demeco go down the line of the old linebacker vets of the Texans. He hasn't forgotten. Yeah, no doubt. Schedules change, though. schedules. Wait, Aziz can show young guys the path from the undrafted free agent to team leader. I guess so. Schedules change, though. I guess you're saying it's more different for sure. E. Chambers, what up? How you doing? Appreciate you for coming through. So I've been waiting for this for a long time, and I think this is the type of information that is more valuable than talking about how good Stefan Diggs looks, because we kind of expected that. How much of a leader Demeco Ryans is, we kind of expected that. CJ Stroud's throwing the deep ball, we kind of expected that. We've never seen this kickoff format, and we don't know how teams are going to approach it. And I think there's a number of angles in a number of ways that it will be approached. Let's hear Demeco Ryans first talking about how this is going to impact the willingness to use starters on kickoff. And I also have another observation about that I think we need to sprinkle into the thought process of this. Cody Stuts, the great Cody Stuts, actually asked this question. Here's Demeco Ryans talking about using starters on special teams.
How do you guys kind of navigate something like that? And with the new kickoff rule, you'll see a lot of teams using many more skill players at the return position because you're gonna be able to return the ball, and it's gonna hit pretty quick. So I think as many guys as you can get who can catch the ball back there returning, whether it's receivers or running backs, like we're gonna try to use all of our guys to see who's best at really creating explosive plays, because that's what I think will happen on that play.
All right, so he's talking about using, more explosive guys, and teams are going to be willing to use their starters. I would agree with that, and I would think that is probably what's going to happen. Here's my thing, though. I actually think it's not just an offensive thing. I think we're going to see more guys on kickoff coverage as well, because you saw some starters on special teams as well on kick coverage, including Jalen Petrie, and that might be a role for Jalen Petrie where he adds another element to, maybe if he's struggling at safety, he's helping you on special teams. I think that not only are we going to see more starters returning kicks, I think we're going to see more starters covering kicks, which you see a lot in college. I mean, it's not 100% rare in the NFL, but I do think we're going to see that a little bit more. And that kind of makes you wonder, like, how is that going to impact roster management? Because for the most part in training camps, we have a pretty decent idea how many of each position they're going to keep. Like some teams will keep more receivers, some teams will keep more backs, some teams have a fullback, some teams have this many tight ends. But I think so let's just look at it this way. If Jalen Petrie is going to be covering kicks, in the past, maybe you have a guy who's a safety who just plays special teams. Are you maybe more willing to cut that guy because you have Jalen Petrie? And does that mean that you're going to keep an extra tight end? Does that tight end cover kicks? There's a lot of angles when it comes to roster management that I think are going to be really, really wild when it comes to this new kickoff thing. And that's really something that I think we need to really, really keep an eye on for sure when it comes to this kickoff thing and how it's impacted. Cody Stuts also asked Tank Dell. Let's hear Tank Dell, and I'll let you know who all was back there on kickoff team, because I think this is going to be interesting. I'll lay out the format. I'll give it an in-depth assessment of that. I'll give you the play of practice, the best and the worst. Spoiler alert: the same guy was involved in both of these plays. So you had the best play, you had the worst play, which could have been a lot worse. Same guy involved, and shouldn't surprise anyone if you've been around here the last few years. So we'll get to that. It is practice observations day 2 here in the locker room. Appreciate everyone for coming through. This was Tank Dell after practice. Cody Stuts spoke with him. First, he's going to talk about the new kickoff return rules. And then we're going to get some confidence from Tank Dell when it comes to potentially returning kicks.
I don't really have a view on it. I have to really, we got to go out there and, have a couple games so I can see how I feel back there. But to be honest, I like it better the old way, like them coming from a father, so I can see what I want to do. But it's cool for right now.
Are you ready for added special teams load in addition to your wide receiver work?
Am I ready? I'm ready for everything, you know. Of course I'm ready. Yeah.
What's been the continuity?
All right, there you go. Of course, I'm ready. So a little bit of confidence from Tank Dell there, and I think it's interesting. I think there will be times where he returns kicks. Is it going to be an all-time thing? I don't think so. I think it's going to be more situational, and I'll just lay out what the kick return drills look like. So they had a couple of portions of the kick return drills. First, they had the coverage team. Those guys are basically just on the opposite side of the field, and they're doing the little blocking at the line and stuff like that. As far as the actual returning, there was a portion where they had two guys back, and they would kick a ball, and those guys would kind of go through the motions. Then there was another portion where they kind of had like bad kicks because a lot of the kicks are going to hit the ground now. So it was basically catching bad kicks, kind of like hands team drills, like old school. You know, in high school when you're doing hands team drills and they're just throwing the ball on the ground, kind of that type of thing is what you saw. But this is who was all in the return line, and these are the main guys. These are the guys that were actually returning kicks, and catching and fielding kicks. There were 6 guys in the return line. Steven Sims was back there. Dameon Pierce was back there. Tank Dell was back there. Robert Woods was back there, and then you had Jawar Jordan and King, and these guys were lining up in pairs. So you had early on, you had Sims and Pierce, then you had Dylan Woods, and then you had Jawar Jordan and King. As far as the wobbly football, like rolling, you also had JJ Taylor, Miles Bryant, Nico, and Mechie catching those. But you didn't see Mechie or Nico actually in like the return part of it. It was more so like it almost had the vibe, and I don't even know how to describe it. It almost had the vibe of a hands team, like onside kick type of recovery joint. What was going on? If I were to, because they ended up doing team in kickoff after this, they kind of broke off and then they started kicking, and you had the return portion. The first team, the first 2 guys that were back there, they were back there in pairs. It was Steven Sims and Des King. So you had those 2 guys side by side. I would say if I were to lay out, like when we watch the offense and we say this guy was going with the 1s and this guy was going with the 2s, I would say this would be the first team just based on what we saw. And I mean, this is really, really early. This is an early assessment and just trying to get some sort of a grasp. And I don't think anyone would be surprised if Sims and King were back there on an actual game day. So that was your first. Your second was Dameon Pierce and Tank Dell. You had them back there. And then the third team was Jawar Jordan and Taylor. You had them back there. So that's just kind of where things were with the kickoff and what that looked like. How does it impact roster management? Who knows? If I had to bet, though, I would say that it's going to be Steven Sims. Did they do live kickoffs with the return defense? They did team, but I mean, they're not in pads. They're not really tackling or anything. So they were basically just fielding it. It wasn't anything noteworthy. They didn't really intensify it. So that's where they were. What up, Ronald? Appreciate you for coming through. Mechie looks okay. He looks good. I've heard like rave reviews. He actually was involved in the best play of practice, which we'll get to in a sec. But Mechie looks fine. It's still going to just be interesting if you're not going to play special teams, and we did see him out there with the hand squad. If you're not going to play special teams, then how hard is it going to be given the fact now maybe it becomes easier if you're going to have starters covering kicks. Maybe that actually helps Mechie a little bit. But it is going to be interesting because we've never seen this before. So we can predict it, but there's no data. to really show how they're going to approach these types of things. Did all the kicks land in the return zone? Yeah, there was no dead zone. It wasn't really that intense. Like I don't even think they had the kicker really kicking it off. It was just kind of in the air. And quite frankly, some of it could have been, you could have let it go and it be a touchback. They were just kind of returning everything. I think they're just trying to figure out, what they're going to look like when it comes to like being synchronized and all that type of stuff. So, yeah, it wasn't that crazy. They used the jugs machine. So the jugs machine was just going right there. There wasn't any kickoff, which is going to be wild to see what that looks like. It was really, they were just putting it in the air. So that's what we got. We got our first taste of it. Corey T, appreciate you keeping updated on all happenings over lunch. Wouldn't be able to do it without it. Working me down. Appreciate you for coming through. Yeah, the return zone is the 20 to the 1 yard line. So it has to land in the 20 or the 1. If it lands in the end zone, it could be a touchback, which goes to the 30, how big of a deal is that? I don't know. I was talking with John Harris about this, and he's like, well, I don't want to give him it at the 30. And I'm just like, okay, is it that big of a deal? If it bounces in the end zone, though, then it's at the 20. So there's a lot of elements here. We haven't really seen the kickoff thing. Is it going to be Fairbairn the whole time? Are they going to have can Townsend kick it? Can Dari kick it in that zone? Can he kick it deep enough? I don't know. That's the beauty of this. But we got our first look at the return guys. Again, Sims and King with the first team, Pearson Tank with the second team, and then with the third team, you had Jordan and Taylor. And you got to think that this is another thing where it's not like they're going to be able to necessarily keep it as a secret. They're going to have to get a look at it in the regular season. I saw someone said, they're not going to show you what I think it was Texans fan Jay. Yeah, I bet we won't see any real kickoff return schemes until the regular season. I mean, there's probably going to be some trickery going on with that, but they're going to have to do some. They're going to have to get some sort of game rep of it and see what it looks like. So, yeah. And if you bounce it and it goes out of bounds, it goes to the 40. Yeah, it's a whole different element. If it goes out of the end zone, go to the 20. It's a lot. It's going to be interesting to see how these kickers approach it. I don't know that I like Kyami Fairbairn like switching the way he kicks off too. I'm a little bit worried about that. I don't know whether you need a thumper or a fast guy. I have no idea. I don't know what exactly that looks like. But that was the first look at the kickoff squad. Danielle Hunter, he's gotten a lot of love around here. Danielle Hunter, he's all business. There's a lot of personality on this team. Danielle Hunter's just about that action, boss. Here was Danielle Hunter. Me kind of asking him how he's feeling coming off the practice field. Here's your newest edge guy for the Houston Texans, local guy, Danielle Hunter.
What's it been like establishing yourself on a team that had success last year, kind of reaching with the younger guys? Will has said that you worked with him. What's that process been like?
It's been really good so far. Adding to whatever I could add to the team's success. Bringing my skills and my knowledge, teaching everybody on the D-line, the skills that they need in order to take their game to the next level. So I feel like at the end of the day, it's going to only make everybody better.
Right, and he seems to be the young guys seem to be gravitating to him, and some of the other guys. Yes, he's a big dude, man. He is a massive guy. Danielle Hunter. It's actually pretty insane. Something we witnessed today, and as much as things change, the more they stay the same. Davis Mills, the Davis Mills roller coaster. It was on display. Usually it's in practice. I remember the Davis Mills practice his rookie year. That was the worst practice that we'd ever seen. It was one-on-one goal line drills. I think he threw 6 interceptions. I actually talked to him about it. It was a bad day. It was a really, really bad day for Davis his rookie year. We've seen him look really good in practice. We've seen him look really bad in practice. Sometimes, as is the case when he's on the field in real games, you see him make a really good play, and then you see him make a really bad play, which was the case today. And that brings us to today's locker room best and worst play of the day, both featuring Davis Mills. Best play, we'll start with the good news. The best play was Davis Mills. He found Mechie for a large gain on the left corner of the sideline. It's probably about 20-yard gain. Perfect toss by Davis Mills. You almost had to look back because you saw the play developing, and then you looked over and you're like, oh man, that was Davis Mills. Okay, Davis Mills, nice toss by Davis Mills. He found John Mechie. Best play of practice, Davis Mills. Shortly after that, though, the worst play, Jacob Phillips. He dropped what should have been the first INT of camp, and quite frankly, I think that either of y'all could have caught this. This was Jacob Phillips. Sticks out like crazy out there. He's rocking the number 22. He's at linebacker. Looks almost like a DB playing linebacker. Doesn't catch like a DB, though, at least not on this play, because Davis Mills went back, threw it right into Phillips' hands. Phillips dropped it, and it fell to the turf. So Davis Mills, I know some people say no harm, no foul. This would have been an easy bunny. So that is the best and worst play of practice. But overall, it was a really like clean, crisp practice. We've only really seen like one bad play, and that was the snap with Juice Scruggs over CJ Stroud's right shoulder. Those two guys, by the way, after practice, they stayed after and got some work in. Stroud was working with Diggs, but him and Scruggs were staying after and getting some snaps in. So I anticipate Scruggs being the center. I know a lot of people were talking about Jared Patterson. Someone asked about the interior of the offensive line. I think they really want Scruggs to be a center. I think that's what they drafted him for, and that's what I'm getting the sense of. Again, 2 days in. But I mean, that was the original plan. Kind of changed last year with the way that everything went, and kind of had to move him around. But I would appreciate very much. I don't know why I said I appreciate. I anticipate very much. I appreciate you, James, for following me over here. I would anticipate that Juice is going to be the center. Laramie Tunsil, he's out there on the side. He's not dressed out. I don't know. It looks like Andrew Beck's getting intensified, and they're working with him a lot. Laramie Tunsil, I don't know when we see Laramie Tunsil. I really don't know when the heck we see Laramie Tunsil. Your guess is as good as mine, because I have no idea when that happens. I would like to think that it's going to be soon, but I definitely wouldn't bet on it. Do we see Laramie Tunsil in the preseason? I think there's a chance we don't. He's on the side doing his thing. So I really, really, the Laramie Tunsil thing is an interesting thing to keep an eye on, for sure. I would definitely keep an eye on that situation. It's always an interesting journey with Laramie Tunsil when it comes to practice, but we will see. I do like seeing. I agree with Ronald. I do like seeing Fisher get some work at left tackle. It's hard to say whether he's looking bad or good. Again, they're not in pads. So do with it. He doesn't look out of place. We'll put it there. Yeah, Laramie's on the side. He's pushing the sled. He's got, he's doing some stuff on the side. He's not just sitting there dipping. So he's there. I'm not worried about Tunsil as long as he's healthy to start the season. No preseason, don't risk it. Yeah, I'm fine with that too. I mean, I'm not tripping on. I don't need to see preseason reps from Laramie Tunsil. I mean, until Laramie Tunsil proves, or we get like some sample size that Laramie Tunsil needs practice or needs, extra work or whatever, I'm with you. So we'll see we'll see what it looks like and when it happens. Sometimes this stuff kind of surprises you, but you get a pretty good grasp when they're intensifying the conditioning and all that. And I don't think Laramie Tunsil's close to that spot. Could be wrong. It's kind of hard to predict sometimes the movement of him, but we'll see. We'll see. Talking about Tunsil's knees, don't know how long he is. Who do you see a bigger jump from, Stingley or Will Anderson? Dominic asking that. It's got to be Will, right? Stingley was playing elite corner last year at the end of the year. I mean, he was the player of the month. So, I mean, really like a jump. Like if we just see Derek Stingley on the field more, and he does exactly what he did last year at the end of last year, I think you're fine, right? Like it's we've seen it. Will Anderson had a good season, was hurt at the end, and that was something that he brought up, and it was pretty clear. Will Anderson's put on 15 pounds. He's got Danielle Hunter opposite of him. So I would definitely say Will Anderson, because we've already seen Stingley play at an elite level for sure. It's not like Laramie is dealing with a different scheme or structure. He was fine all season with the shifting on. Yeah, he'll be fine. Let's hear a little bit from Joe Mixon. I enjoy listening to Joe Mixon speak. Let's hear a little bit of what good old Joe Mixon had to say. And I think it's interesting. Joe Mixon, like the first time that he met with the media, he seemed a little bit shell-shocked. It had been less than a week since he'd been traded from the Bengals. Then you saw him a little bit after that. He seemed a lot more comfortable. That was when he had the quote of the offseason where he said, everybody will eat. This is a little bit of Joe Mixon and what he had to say during his media availability. And I'll go up to DJ Bieniemy back and forth on the running back position too, that I think is interesting.
I feel like I'm very comfortable in it. Obviously, still a little bit of things that I got to get in a playbook on, but obviously that comes with the install. Obviously, we haven't fully went over everything, but I felt very comfortable where I'm at. I think that my role in the offense is very unique, and I'm definitely embracing everything that comes with it. Say that again.
So what's been your first impression working alongside Gerard Jordan?
Oh yeah, Gerard Jordan. I mean, he's a good player. Obviously, he's young. He's learning. He's getting around, and we're showing him the ropes as vets. I think that he's been taking everything in the best as he can, and obviously, when he gets out on the field, he works hard. And obviously, as a Texan staff, that's what they love and appreciate. I do feel like it is kind of early, being early July or mid July. But I mean, other than that, I mean, we're here. We playing football. That's what we want to do. That's what we love to do, and it's a blessing to be able to go there and be able to check things out and see a lot of history. And I look forward to it.
This is a good interaction. Watch this. This is good ass media interaction.
Yeah.
We've seen across the league running backs. They're close to 30. People move off. How do you feel about that area?
I mean, can we name names? No, I'm asking.
No, I'm just talking about general.
I mean, I guess it's a narrative to y'all, but I mean, the running backs that I see that's close to 28, 30, 31, 32, they balling right now. So, I mean, my hopes is high, you know what I'm saying? And I know what the type of player I am, and I'm not here to speak for everybody else, but in terms of me, I know for a fact, as long as I'm in great position to win, like, it's going to be night and day compared to how I was in Cincinnati. You know what I'm saying? So, like I say, I'm very optimistic with how this offense will be ran, how it will be used in this offense, and in terms of the whole running back narrative. I mean, like I said, everybody that I see, I say about like 26 to about 32 right now. Like, all them dudes is balling, man. So Shout out to the running backs, and I hope, y'all have a hell of a season. Everybody do their thing, for real.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you.
I think that was good. He was asking for names and stuff like that. I think it was good interaction. Shout out to DJ Bieneme of ESPN for the question there with Joe Mixon. The Mixon thing is going to be interesting. And then the running backs down are going to be interesting as well. Chris Watkins asks, so if it turns out Pierce hasn't made the steps in this offense and we need a true backup, is Dalvin Cook just completely washed? He certainly has scheme familiarity. See, I don't know. I think that would be a situation where it might make sense to bring in Dalvin Cook if he has anything left in the tank. My problem is this. Some people were talking about bringing him in even with Pierce and with Mixon. He's already shown that he's not happy in that role. So I don't think you bring Dalvin Cook in that role. I think if you really, really need and you have, 10 to 12 or whatever carries available, maybe you look at that. But as they sit right now, I think they want to look at their young guys. I think they want to look at Pierce, and the young running backs are going to get a huge-ass opportunity when it comes to the Hall of Fame game. It's going to be crazy. How did Quitoriano look today? I know you're high on him. I'm not high on him. It's kind of a bit. I do think that Quitoriano, if he stays healthy, can contribute on a football team. It's a big-ass if, though. It's almost as big of an if as, like, talking about Stingley. Maybe even more because he's not as talented. You're willing to be patient and go through the growing pains of if Stingley misses some time. Quitoriano is in no position to where you're going to get that kind of leeway. It's not a lead or anything like that. He looked fine. He didn't do anything special, didn't do anything terrible. Nothing really stuck out too much with Quitoriano today. But I don't think Stutz is as out on him as he's trying to display. I kind of feel like Stutz might be driving the bus. Did Sims look good on kickoffs from Jeff Plays? He looks fine. He hadn't muffed one or anything like that. Again, no tackling, not really full speed. He looks fine. He's clearly the guy that they trust the most. Now, does that mean that he has like a guaranteed roster spot? I don't know that he's like Brian Mitchell or, something like that. I'm going way back. I'm dating myself. I don't know that he's like Eric Metcalf or something. See, date myself even more. But I don't know much about Eric Metcalf's game. Just stories. Shout out to Eric Metcalf. But is that going to be enough? Is Steven Sims being the guy that they like the most on punt and kickoff going to be the most? Maybe. Like if he's by far the best guy on kickoff, then perhaps. Again, with the first team, it was him and Des King. But he looks fine. I think we're going to have to see it in a game. I think he's going to have to make plays in a game. Like the kickoffs, there's times where in the old NFL, you could earn a roster spot on special teams in the return game. I'm not even talking about covering. I'm talking about returning punts, returning kicks. There was a time where you could do that. And there was a time where you could even look awesome doing it and still not make the team. I don't know if that's the case anymore. Like if you're by far and away the best return man, then I think you earn a roster spot. So I would keep a look. I would keep a close eye on Steven Sims. Are the overreactions from yesterday still holding up? Yesterday's overreaction, Townsend, a badass punter. He wasn't really punting today. I didn't see as much. So, yeah, that didn't go away. Quitoriano looked fine. Nothing really bad happened. Stefan Diggs, that dude, that actually got intensified because I think he's going to be – my overreaction today was number one wideout. So, yeah, there wasn't anything that put a dip in that roller coaster. How do we find highlights to watch of training camp? Just go on the internet, look around. People who are on the scene, X/Twitter. Maybe the Texans put out some highlights. I don't know. They got a whole camera crew there. I'm sure they'll put out a video. I put a Diggs out there, but I don't know. I think there's someone on Twitter who actually steals highlights and just or not Twitter, on YouTube, who just steals highlights and puts them up. It's kind of weird. He just puts the ad of people and then puts the highlights up there. It's actually kind of strange that that's even a thing, but it kind of is. He just takes reporters' highlights and stuff and puts them up. I saw it yesterday. Kind of weird. Stefan Diggs predicting the wide receiver order. Diggs 1, Dell 2, Collins 3. Okay. I mean, it could go either way. Number of ways. Diggs will be the big red zone threat. Nico will get the most yards. Okay. How is Kalen Bollig doing? Matt, he's there. I mean, he's not looking bad. For sure. Someone says Clinton Ron. Shout out to Clinton Ron. Saw Clint out there today. Clinton Ron claimed that Lassiter is too slow based solely on his 40 time at the combine. Yeah, I don't know. Tank Dell seems to really, really like him. I don't know if he is or not. I would say that the 40 time is, I mean, it's not great. The other thing about Lassiter that I think is interesting is they drafted Fisher before the tackle run. You know what I mean? So they drafted Fisher, and then I think 8 tackles went and how much ever time. So he was kind of their top option. With Lassiter, I do wonder, you know, and I wish like in an alternate universe we could go back in the draft and like say that Kool-Aid McKinstry's on the board and DeJean and some of these other guys are on the board. And I wonder if they like Lassiter that much. In other words, were they drafting for need? Here's my thing when it comes to the way that Lassiter's being evaluated. I appreciate you for coming through, Ronald. My thing with Lassiter is there's like a natural tendency, and I think sometimes it's valid in certain positions, but there's like a natural tendency to say, well, if this guy's not your number 2 corner, then he's not worth a second round pick. And I think in some positions that could perhaps be the case. Like if a guy's not your, you know, a contributing tight end and you draft him in the second round, then it's, you know, that's not a great pick. If he's not one of your top couple receivers, then maybe it's not a great pick. But I think if like, let's just say Lassiter is just a nickel guy. And that's kind of like the criticism I hear. I think that's what you're talking about. If Lassiter is just a nickel guy, that's great. Like if you have a really, really, really good nickel guy, that's great. Like if you could tell teams before the draft that this guy is going to be really, really good at guarding nickels. Like we're sitting here, we're talking about Tank, we're talking about Nico, we're talking about Diggs, and we're saying, all right, all 3 of those guys are going to contribute. If there's a guy that can lock up someone on the inside, then that's fantastic. That's more valuable than a lot of things in today's NFL. So the speed thing, we'll see what it looks like, but I'm not going to sit here and say if this guy is just a really, really good nickel guy that's a bad thing. We'll see how it looks on the field. A lot of people say he didn't really look slow at Georgia. I didn't really see him looking slow. So I think that that would be a big thing to look at for sure. I think that would be a really, really good thing to look at. No doubt. Why are we dodging Quandre Diggs? He's got more speed than Lassiter. Quandre's not really a corner though. Quandre's a safety. So I don't know what him and Lassiter really have to do with each other. Like Diggs would be, I mean, that would impact Ward or that would impact Petrie. Maybe unless you think he can go in there and play nickel, but since his early days at Texas, he's not really a corner. When you don't have a CB2 though, yeah, I mean that's fair. But what if they didn't think that any of the other guys, not named McKinstry and not named DeJean, what if they didn't think they were valuable enough to be DBs? Like what would that be? That's another question there to keep an eye on. He's going to be better than Jeff on the outside. We'll see. Is that good or is it bad? Like, does that mean that Akuta's struggling, or does that mean that he's just beating him out. How is Money Mills looking? He had a really good throw to Mechie, and then he had an interception. Should have been an interception to Phillips. So we'll see how that goes. I think if Nick wanted Kool-Aid or DeJean, he would have traded up. That's what he does. It was a pretty high cost at that point, I believe. But hey, I don't think it'll be too bad with Mechie. I'm not. Let me clarify this. I'm not calling him a nickel. I'm replying to what Ronald says, where there's criticism about him not being fast enough. And I think when people talk about guys not being fast enough, typically they're saying like to play outside. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if he is, that's still a good pick. That's all I'm saying. So that I think a lot of times it's evaluated as this guy has to be an outside corner, this guy has to be an inside corner. I don't look at that as too bad of a thing at all if he does that. Yes, he did. Okudah had a good day yesterday. He looks fine. Lassiter ain't slow. Yes, that's the $1 million question. There's a lot of people kind of talking about that. So we'll see. I heard Aziz had a couple of picks. Do you know which QB threw them? I must have missed them. I didn't know that he had interceptions. I haven't seen an interception yet, to be honest with you. So I don't know who saw that. Who said that he had 2 picks? Maybe I was I thought I was watching all practice. Didn't see that. I know that he was running very well. There was a play where Noah Brown, I think, ran kind of a flag route, and Al-Shaair was step for step with him. He's been running his ass off. I didn't see the interceptions. I don't think that happened. It damn sure didn't happen in teams. So yeah, whoever said that, not sure. Maybe I missed it. I did not notice that. Maybe they saw it. I didn't. Whoever said that Al-Shaair had interceptions, it did not happen. Yeah, Stutz was looking too. No, there hasn't been an interception. There's been a drop. So whoever, I don't even know who you're talking about. Whoever said that Shaair had a couple of interceptions, they aren't watching practice. Or they're just making it up. So yeah, I didn't see that at all. That did not happen. Okay, let me ask this. Yeah, I didn't see that either at all. Yeah, Stutz was there too. There was no interception from Al-Shaair at all. Let me see if Stutz will hop in real quick, get his obs, and then we'll get you ready for him. I know he's doing a little bit of writing, but I'll get Stutz in here there. But yeah, he didn't have an interception. That's did not happen. Didn't happen at all. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and again, there can be, it can be hard to see certain things, but yeah, I didn't see an Al-Shaair interception. I saw him run his ass off. But yeah, Brandon says we intercepted Shaair from the Titans roster. I will be going to Cleveland Hall of Fame game, probably not, but I will be there at practice. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying I didn't see any. I did not see any interception. I'm sorry. I did not see that. Let's bring in Cody Stuts. He was on the scene. Stuts, when you going live?
This afternoon. Not exactly sure exactly what time, but it'll be this afternoon.
Okay, so we're going to get to Cody Stuts live. Got that yesterday. What did you think of the first look at the kickoffs?
That was my biggest thing. That's what I started at Houston football with, was the kickoff conversation. It's chaos. It's going to be a chaotic play till these teams kind of figure out exactly what they're doing. And even then, as teams have to adjust to what other teams are doing, it's going to continue to be chaos. So it's going to be a fun play. It's no longer part of the bathroom break like it used to be.
Yeah, it's not a bathroom break, and quite frankly, I mean, it's some. I think it's must watch. And I was talking about it earlier on the stream. I think it impacts roster management in a number of ways, because I think we've tend to focus on the fact that, okay, well, offensively, they're going to use starters more often. And then on defense, you look over on kickoff team, you have Jalen Petrie and some other starters out there fielding kicks. Maybe in a strange way, the kickoff actually helps a guy like John Mechie, who doesn't play special teams and only plays receiver. Like we don't know. Like it just kind of depends on the approach. But I think there's a number of factors. I don't think there's going to be a set fluid approach to how it goes, but I think it's going to be impacted in a large number of ways, and it could go either way. And I think a guy like a Mechie, was he your fifth receiver right now, maybe fifth or sixth?
Mm-hmm.
Seventh, 5 through 7, whatever. On one side, you say, okay, well, this could hurt him, but it actually could help him because more starters are going to be playing special teams, not just in the return game, but also in the coverage game.
Coverage, blocking. I mean, guys are going to have to play special teams that previously didn't play a lot or didn't play any special teams. That's just going to be a necessity if you're going to make this roster. I think there's only maybe a handful of guys that aren't going to be on any special teams unit whatsoever. Right? Dalton Schultz and Joe Mixon and a few of the offensive linemen. And I guess you count, field goals, as special teams unit, then they'll be there. But and everybody else has basically a conversation to maybe be on special teams. And, you talked about Nico and Tank fielding some of the, the grounders, so to speak, like a couple of Little League coaches throwing footballs as grounders out there to just kind of give them funny bounces and funny looks to pay off of. Just about anybody can play special teams now. And the blocking, I mean, they pride themselves in blocking receivers. So if those guys block well, why not have them block on special teams?
Yeah, that's the other thing about it is, we don't even know what the drills are. And that's I'm sitting here and I'm talking to the people, and shout out to all the people coming in. Be sure to like and subscribe to the video. But I'm sitting there watching these drills and we're like, okay, Nico's in the line. Okay, well, he didn't return one. And then they're doing like the squibs because there's going to be more wobbling around and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's almost like whenever teams are up 14, they're going to anticipate like a wild ass knuckleball kick. So they're going to send out guys that maybe they don't necessarily want to return, but they would have them on a hands team or something like that. So that's what excites me about this crap is that you don't even know what the hell you're watching. You don't even know what the hell you're watching. The drills are different. The scenery's different. So that's what excites me about this whole special teams thing. And I do wonder, there's no onside kicks allowed. Like, say a team's down, are they going to just be more reckless? Not reckless, but are they going to be more wild with the kick and kind of squib it to where maybe they're risking it going out of bounds and the ball being at the 40, which is pretty much what happens with an onside kick anyways. Like, are we just going to see some wacky ass stuff like that? And if a team's up 14, do they put a guy up there like a Nico Collins that's more safe, that can just maybe more capable of catching the rock? That's the beauty of it for me.
It will evolve at a rapid pace is what I'm excited to see too. Because what you see in weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the season is going to be, elementary compared to what teams can actually execute later in the season after they practiced it a little bit.
Yeah, and the other thing about it with the kickoff rules is who the hell's going to kick it? we talk about that because I don't want Fairbairn tackling people. I don't know if Townsend can kick, and I don't know if Dari can get it in the return zone enough. And if it's too short, I mean, are you already risking it? I wonder if there is going to be someone who just says, F it, here's the ball at the 30, and just kick it out of the end zone, and we'll see what happens. We're not going to risk it. We're not going to F with it. I do wonder if maybe we get that. That would be one of the most, as a term you use a lot, that'd be one of the most hardo moves ever by a defense. Like, all right, screw you. We don't care about the 5 yards. In a league where coaches burn freaking timeouts. Don't get me started on that, though.
Timeouts for 5 freaking yards on offense. I don't know that they're just going to give up 5 yards on defense. Especially some of the older. You know what? Actually, we need to ask Matt Burke this. We need to ask Matt Burke how much the kickoff affects how they set things up from a defensive perspective, and how valuable is 5 yards, 10 yards, 12 yards. I'm sure he's probably got some stat in the back of his brain that he'll spout off and be like, well, actually, 32% more likely to force a turnover. There's got to be something associated with it.
Did I miss an Azeez Al-Shaair interception? Because I felt like I watched all of team. I haven't seen an interception yet. I saw Phillips drop it. And I'm watching the whole time. I'm not even really mingling. I'm one of the guys up there I didn't see Al-Shaair intercept anything. I saw him run toe-to-toe with Noah Brown. We saw that, and you and I looked over at each other and said, damn, that son of a gun can run, and he can. I mean, it was stride for stride. He looked like a DB, but Al-Shaair did not have an interception. I don't know what that I didn't know.
It was one of those I was unfamiliar with your game. Like, I knew he could tackle. I knew he's a line of scrimmage guy, and he touted it himself about how he could get in there and mix things up in the line of scrimmage right at there. But step for step with Noah Brown, and CJ would have had to make a perfect pass to complete it. That was good. But no, there's no I don't know who said that, guys. And whoever said that, don't listen to them anymore, because they're not paying attention and they're not doing right by you. The best people to listen to are the people that stand right there, pay attention, take notes, all practice. That's Landry. That's me. Seth Payne does it really well. Sean Pendergast does it really well. That's who. Everything else is secondhand. Yeah. Everything else is secondhand or is not as trustworthy. Like, yeah, and I'm not
seeing a couple of interceptions is wild to me. It's one thing to say, did this guy catch it? But that's wild to me.
Seeing 2 interceptions when there were 0 interceptions is bananas.
Yeah. I mean, because I would love to see. I remember last year when Cashman had 2. I mean, that was the story that carried us for a week. But we haven't really gotten to see, like, as far as the linebackers, like the D linemen and the linebackers, we're really not seeing a ton in the O linemen at this portion of practice. But I think as you get into the pads and you get into more like team type of stuff, that's when we actually see those guys. But as far as like the linebackers that have looked out, Christian Harris hadn't been there, and that's kind of gone under the radar too. We haven't even really seen Christian Harris. I don't know what's going on there. But the biggest takeaway for me is that, number one, you've talked about they're running 3 linebackers and 3 safeties a little bit.
Yeah.
And we see that, and they seem to have be willing to put smaller linebackers out there. Like, the linebackers aren't huge. Now, when you don't have Christian Harris, maybe you're willing to do different things, like maybe they would run a different defense. Like if your DBs are out, you're running. So maybe there's an element of that, but Al-Shaair can run his ass off has been like my number one linebacker observation.
Yeah, I would second that. And then Henry To'oTo'o had a really nice play yesterday, and he was running around showcasing a little bit of speed today. Yesterday he made Dalton Schultz look kind of silly. The defense put Schultz in a weird situation, and he had to kind of choose who to block, and he chose to block one guy. And I don't know if that was the correct decision, because To'oTo'o was unblocked to the running back, and it had been like an explosion in the backfield, but it was definitely a tackle for a loss. I was skeptical of the linebacker depth, mainly because I didn't know what type of To'oTo'o you're going to get. I didn't know if Jake Hanson's got something, but I mean, Hanson's out there getting.
I think Hanson. I like Hanson, dude. I like Hanson
getting the snaps that I thought Christian Harris would be getting. And when's Christian Harris showing up? Is that going to be, hey, he needed a couple extra days? Oh,
personal stuff,
a tight muscle or something. Because if it's an injury and he's not working out on the side and he's not even there in street clothes, that's a little bit more serious than guy kind of standing there getting a day off.
Yeah. But I actually like Hanson. I think they like him too.
Look, we've been trying to cut Jake Hanson for 2 years, and he stays alive. So,
some plays too. Almost made a costly one last year.
Yeah,
they called that roughing.
Yeah,
they didn't do it, man.
Yeah,
no personal foul there. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you. We're gonna get it close to 4. What are you writing? What are you working up on? Tell the people how they can get the best written word in town.
Yeah, so the observation's already up at Houston Football, www.houfootball.com, or I've tweeted about it on the Twitter account at Cody_Stuts. It's in the description of all the YouTube videos, so you can catch that. And look, it's $7 a month for everything. I give you pretty much over 1,000 words every day from practice, and it's not meaningless, useless stuff. It's it's good observation stuff. You
thought out, all that type of stuff. Yeah. Journalism's kind of dying. Newspapers they're just not putting as much into it. This is the best consistent written word if you want to keep it alive, and it all goes into the digital as well. Jamal Hill, he's there. And again, when I say that this early, I'm not saying it as like a bad thing, but nothing crazy.
When Jamal Hill makes a play, we'll tell you. Like that.
Oh yeah.
I'm well aware of how much people want to know about Jamal Hill.
I like Jamal Hill.
When he makes a play, we will tell you. Trust me.
We got you.
Yeah.
We got you covered. Appreciate you, Stutes. Look forward to reading that. See you tomorrow at practice. See you today on the stream.
See you. Thanks.
All right, there you go. That's Cody Stuts here in the locker room. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Be sure to subscribe, like, ride along. Again, biggest takeaways, new kickoff rules, interesting, a lot of elements. Got our first look at that. Stefan Diggs, I think he's going to be that dude. CJ Stroud, deep ball, beautiful. No interceptions yet. The Davis Mills roller coaster kind of continues. Demeco Ryans, big leader, in case you didn't know. Tank Dell ready to return kicks, and a lot of other stuff. We'll keep it going. Appreciate y'all for joining me. It's a fun time. Same time tomorrow, and we will keep this going. And always remember, no matter what happens, whether there's interceptions or not, we're all in it together. Thanks for coming.
And we not too plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give. We got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.